Another edition of Riding Home here. Dean Legge and Matt DeBary. How many days are we into camp now? I can't remember.
Today will be the fourth practice of fall camp. And this is Tuesday. Practice is in about an hour and a half. I think this is day 4.
This is the 5th day of practice.
5th day of practice.
This is what starts happening after a while.
Yeah.
So, yesterday, I'm getting the days confused, but I watched the wide receivers most of the time, and you watched the bulk of the defense.
Right.
Obviously, at this stage, Brenton Cox is no longer with the team. He's in the transfer portal. That's too bad. I mean, you got a guy who certainly has the body and so forth to do damage, but he just didn't look interested the other day. When you were there Saturday, when you watched on Monday, what difference did you see from the defensive front, if any? I mean, the outside linebackers are right there on top of you. You can't miss them when they come in.
Yeah, I got a really good look at the outside linebacker group, and again, guys who stood out: Azeez Ojulari, Jermaine Johnson, Adam Anderson, Nolan Smith. These guys look the part. They're long, they're athletic, they're quick. There should be no issues at outside linebacker. Kirby Smart was really getting after the defensive line. Without the microphone. He had the microphone on as we entered the building and as we left, but he took that bad boy off with the media there. But he was still yelling. He was still yelling at someone.
He should really definitely leave it on just for fun.
Oh, that'd be great.
That would be fun.
I'd be surprised if he had a voice at the end of this week. But
Dan Lanning didn't have one yesterday.
That was clear. He came in for the press conference, very hoarse. And that's kind of, if you're a Georgia fan, that's what you want to hear, I think. The coaches not necessarily yelling or getting after players, but they were coaching them, but they coach them in loud voices, and you have to with so much going on. Yeah. And they said, we don't waste a minute at practice. There's only a select time we can be here each practice and each week, so they make the most of it, and there's no walking. Everything is quick from one drill to another. Between reps, things are quick. The coaches coach quick. They're talking, yelling quickly, and it's very organized. And again, we talk all the time. Kirby's about the details, and he's trying not to sweat the small stuff, what we heard. But it's still all about the details, and you can see it in practice.
There's plenty of perspiration for him still. He's doing fine on sweating the small stuff.
But yesterday he did not look very enthused or just in a great mood watching the defensive line, and that's definitely a spot that he has a close eye on, and we've seen that in practice. We'll see where he is today. I assume it's going to be still – he might be with the defensive backs. He's still going to be on the defensive side of the field.
He almost always is with the defensive – he's with them a lot when we're around. I'll say this too, though. He's not afraid to scream and yell at the tight ends or the offensive line. The running backs and the quarterbacks get the least of his wrath when we're out there. Yeah. But if you read what we were hearing this past week, that he really, no one is safe from him.
Right.
Like if you're not doing it right, he's on you.
If you're a running back and you're getting yelled at by Coach Kirby. Smart, you must have done something really, really wrong. It's tough for them to really screw up as compared to a quarterback making a bad decision or the defensive lineman just not hand placement when they've been talked over and over, do this, and they're not doing it. Yeah, you're going to get an earful. But the running backs, they go through drills, and there's a lot going on still. But I know you got to focus on the receivers a little bit.
Well, I didn't. I just watched them.
Yeah,
and when you come into the season and Georgia's still a 20-point favorite over Vanderbilt, 20 or more point favorite over Vanderbilt. Day of, it always seems like there's something wrong. And obviously when you lose a high-level defensive lineman or defensive whatever they're called, whatever Brent Cox was, he was an outside linebacker really, but
he also played with his hand on the ground. He's one of those hybrids.
He was a combo guy. There's such a focus on the – and we do this. I mean, this is part of what, the offseason is like is, the focus is overwhelmingly on the negative. I think if you cover the team, how are they going to do this? How are they going to do that? The receivers, they look more than adequate to me. I've got to tell you that they don't, they may be inexperienced, and that's fine. But I think one of the positions that you'd be okay at being inexperienced at is receiver or running back. And think about how good Terrence Edward was as a freshman. Think about how good AJ was as a freshman. Guys like that. Even Muhammad Massaquoi. These were guys who made plays and so forth. You've got two guys who are starting. Actually, the starting receivers are all returning starters in college football. So Demetrius Robertson, Kager, and then you also have Tyler Simmons. So your starters are all returners. Yeah. Your sort of killer playmakers, they're the younger guys. So I think it's a matter of how much will you see Matt Landers, how much will you see
Kyrus Jackson.
Well, Kyrus Jackson for sure too, because he's behind what appeared to be behind D-Rob in the slot. But how much will you see guys that, when you look at Alabama's receivers, they're great. When you look at Clemson's receivers, they're great. Well, Clemson's receivers were basically freshmen last year, right? Am I missing something there?
T. Higgins was a sophomore. Justin Ross, who's probably the best of the bunch, was a freshman last year. But they did lose a lot at receiver. There's no doubt about that. But it's not like they're in the situation they were in 2015 and 2016 at receiver, where I think they struggled to have guys make plays, at the wideout spot. Again, George Pickens and Don Blaylock, they might be freshmen, but I think both those guys are going to play. And they are only going to get better and better. So it is a talented group, not necessarily an experienced group, but they do have experience with guys like Robertson and Cage coming in. Yeah, but they've got to do it in the red and black.
Cager totally looks the part.
They've got a few guys who definitely
Pickens for sure.
Yeah, they've got a few guys who are first guys off the bus types at wide receiver. You're still gonna put Isaiah Wilson and Jordan Davis and those guys. I mean, they're big all the way around though, and that's I think is what I noticed immediately when fall camp started. These guys are big, and it's not just on in the trenches, but they're big at running back, receiver. I mean, this is overall a very large physical team.
I remember still. I don't think you were at Kirby's opening press conference that December or whatever it was, 7th or whatever it was. But the thing he talked about is we've got to get bigger. Well, they're bigger. It didn't take long. It took a year actually. It took till the 2017 season. But when you look across the board now, even more. As stacked up as Nick and Sony were, now you look at Zamir and you look at DeAndre Swift.
Harion's huge.
Harion has really developed. Some of these guys, this is about being the third and fourth year being in a system where, you have developed your body in a way that, an 18-year-old playing linebacker, might struggle in a way that a 21-year-old wouldn't, I guess. We're going to see guys like Nakobe Dean, how they develop, but that's another guy who continues to get a lot of people talking about him. And Tyreek Stevenson, too.
Tyreek Stevenson got a lot of praise from Dan Lanning yesterday, but, staying with the defensive line, a lot of people think Georgia lost are depleted there, and that's just not true. But this is the money year for a lot of guys like Tyler Clark, David Marshall, a forgotten guy coming back. He was leading the group in drills yesterday. David Marshall was. Yeah, he's still a big dude, and he was making a lot of plays last year when he was healthy. So if Tyler Clark wants to be a high draft pick and make it in the league, he needs a big year. So does David Marshall. If Mikhail Carter wants to play football at the next level, he's going to have to find himself a spot here. Justin Young, too. So you've got some veterans. You've got some experience to go along with all this young talent that they brought in on the defensive line in 2019. So still a big-time question mark there, but don't forget about a guy like David Marshall and Tyler Clark and what they can bring. Julian Rochester isn't making the plays that Jordan Davis did, at least second part of last year, but he's a guy who is going to play a lot right at that nose position, and he might not make a lot of plays, but he's an important guy.
Well, Dan Lanning really wants Jordan Davis to have a big year. Because think about it, man. I mean, it's not so different than baseball, but I think just generally speaking in sports, if you can guard the middle, you're in good shape. Yeah. And, they didn't have Jordan Davis last year in the Sugar Bowl, and you could tell. You go perhaps from they didn't have Monty Rice.
Right.
In that game either. So you start saying, oh, well, okay, and then you lose DeAndre Baker going to that game. Every single level of the defense.
DeAndre Walker.
Excuse me. and DeAndre Walker.
Yeah.
I said Baker, but they had Walker
Both
was
of them.
missing too.
Right.
When you lose, one of the most important people at every level of your defense, does it matter? Of course it matters. Now those guys are back, with the exception of the DeAndres. Monty Rice, it looks like Monty Rice and Tay Crowder right now, but Nakobe Dean I think is going to play a lot too.
Yeah.
We don't know how much.
And this will probably be the last time we bring up the Sugar Bowl, because it is in the past and it's a different team. But Dan Lanning even said, he's like, we moved on from that. We're a different team.
Well, I don't know what else they're supposed to say.
Yeah.
If they won the national championship,
Probably.
it would still be the same thing. This is a different team, and it's a different...
He said it left a sour taste in their mouth for maybe a day, and that's probably coach speak.
I'm sure it was more than a day.
Right. But that's what they want to get out to us. But
they just didn't.
Another guy, Malik Herring. It seems like there's a lot of guys on defensive line.
It's time for Malik to kind of do something. I know a lot of y'all are talking about Malik a lot.
I think he's up at around 280, which I think is good for him. But he's a guy who can be disruptive, and the more he plays. But they're going to have some guys rotating there. There's a lot of guys pushing for playing time, and
it's just like I don't mean to be this guy. I'm not trying to be, kind of difficult. But you get to your junior season at Georgia, and if you've not yet sort of exploded on the scene, it's time to start making plays.
Yeah.
And for guys like Malik Herring, it's time. Now he's not a bust. That's not what I'm saying, and people shouldn't take that from this. But it is time,
And he's got a lot of talent, so he should be making plays.
And it's time for Walter Grant too.
Yeah.
I think this is going into his junior year, right? Am I going crazy here?
2017 class.
You've got some. Yeah, he's a junior, so you've got some really good players in some of these situations, and you would like to see them step up. If you can get a lot out of Marco Barnett this year, that'd be good.
Yeah.
But he's an older guy. He's been in the system the entire time.
Justin Young was a guy mentioned by
the
staff
I don't know
too.
if Justin Young's going to really ever play a down that really matters.
Right.
But what if he can do, some of the third quarter against Vanderbilt, and all of your other defensive linemen aren't out there the entire time?
And again, this is a healthy unit right now. Who knows if someone gets dinged up? These guys who maybe right now we're not expecting to play and contribute a whole lot, they might be in a position where they need to. So, again, every practice matters.
I don't think Ryan Davis stood out, did he? He's still coming back from that.
Yeah. It looks the part, though. Just with standing there with pads on, he looks like a giant inside linebacker type. Quay Walker, too.
There's plenty of guys who have not yet really played, who we got a sample of in the Sugar Bowl. Aziz, David Wilson, guys like that, and then you start talking about Quay Walker, Channing Tindall.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys that we are not thinking about right now because Brent Cox left the team and because there's a concern about the wide receivers. All right, we've really talked for a while here. I think we're going to end it here. Stay tuned to DawgPost, DAWGPOST.com for more on riding home. Matt will start his podcast here soon. His shows here soon enough.
Best recruiting show out there. There we go.
Best recruiting show out here. And we'll catch y'all on the flip side.